So right now inside your Google Ads account, there's a setting that's quietly telling Google what a good call looks like, and there's a real chance it's completely wrong. Because if your call tracking is set up the way that most accounts are, Google is looking at your conversions and thinking, great, they want more of these. And then going out and finding you more spam, more price shoppers, more wrong numbers. And the worst part, your dashboard looks incredible while this is all happening. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 4 types of call tracking, show you what each one is actually measuring versus what you think it's measuring. And by the end, you'll know exactly which setup fits your business so you can stop accidentally training Google on junk calls. So after nearly a decade of managing Google Ads accounts for service businesses, bad call tracking is probably one of the most common problems I find. We'll first go from the basic stuff to advanced stuff. For each type, I'll tell you what it measures, where it breaks, and when I use it. And at the end, I'll give you some simple layered systems I use in my clients' accounts so you know exactly what to do with all this. But first, one idea that changes how you think about everything we're about to cover. Google Ads does not optimize for good calls. It optimizes for whatever signals you give it, anything. So imagine you have a basket and you're tossing every phone interaction into it. Accidental taps, spam, wrong numbers, real leads, all of it. And then handing that basket to Google and saying, go find me more of this. That's what loose call tracking does. You fill a basket with junk and tell Google that that's what winning looks like. The whole point of this video is one idea. Measure everything, but only optimize on the calls that actually matter. So there are 4 types. I'm going to evaluate each on 2 things. Accuracy, does it track real connected calls? And control, does the business feel comfortable with the number that's showing? Those 2 things are in constant tension, and I'll explain what I mean by this in later in the video. So let's start with type 1. Click to call is the simplest setup. Your real phone number stays on the website. Nothing changes. You track a conversion when someone taps or clicks that number. Businesses love this because their number never changes. It's stable. It looks trustworthy. No weird random numbers popping up. If the business cares deeply about phone number visibility, this is the least disruptive option. But here's the problem. A click is not a call. So think of it this way. Imagine you own a restaurant and you're measuring how busy you are by counting how many people actually touched the front door. Some of them came inside and sat down. Some grabbed it by accident walking past. Some opened the door, looked in, decided it wasn't for them, and left. And one guy grabbed it 4 times because he couldn't figure out if it was a push or a pull door. That's click to call, real engagement mixed with noise, and there's no way to separate the 2. Now, if click to call is the only method of tracking phone leads, you absolutely use it as a primary conversion. Just know you're mixing bad data with good data by mixing in accidental taps, people who copied the number but never dialed, and multiple clicks from the same person looking like multiple conversions. It works, but expect more junk in your data and keep a close eye on what Google is doing with those signals. If you do have other tracking methods in place, be careful with this one. The more accurate your primary signal is, the better Google performs. Type 2 is calls from ads. Someone sees your ad in the search results, sees the phone number right there and calls directly from the ad without ever visiting your website. And that's an important distinction. This only tracks calls that happen from an ad itself. If someone clicks through to your site and then calls from there, that's not captured here. This is strictly that they saw the ad, they called from the ad. I think every service business should be tracking this. It's clean attribution. There's a direct line between your ad spend and that specific phone call, but don't stop here and think that the job is done. A real call from an ad is not automatically a good lead. It can still be a wrong fit. A competitor, spam, an existing customer calling from the first number they see. You can set a minimum call duration to filter the shortest ones, but call length is a blunt signal. A 2-minute call with a tire kicker is a bad lead. A 30-second call with someone who books a job is a great one. One quick thing, the duration filter only works if you have a call reporting turned on in your account settings. If that's off, you're basically back to tracking clicks, not actual calls. So call from ad is a strong foundation, but on its own, it doesn't tell you anything about quality, and it only covers calls from your ad, not your website. And that's where the next 2 types come in. Type 3 is Google's website call tracking. Google swaps in a forwarding number on your site for visitors who came from your ad. So when they call, Google can tie that back to the click, the keyword, the campaign. From a data standpoint, big step up. You're tracking real connected calls tied to specific ad interactions. And now you're capturing calls that happen on the website, not just from the ad. And here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. With click to call, you only track someone who taps or clicks the phone number on the screen. But what about someone who's sitting there at their computer, they see the number on the website, pick up their phone and dials it manually? Click to call misses that completely with Google forwarding numbers or third-party tracking, which we'll get into in a second. That call still gets tracked because the tracking is tied to the number itself, not the click. That alone makes these methods significantly more accurate. But here's where the tension shows up. That number on the site isn't the business's number. It's a Google forwarding number. And for a business owner who's had the same number for 15 years, it's on the trucks, it's on the business cards, it's in the signage, sees this random number on their own website, and it feels kind of wrong. The concern is always the same. What if the customer writes that number down and calls it back, let's say 6 months from now? Or is it going to mess up my SEO because I've had this phone number forever? So if that business is comfortable using this Google tracking method where it's going to swap it, then use it. If they're not comfortable with that, don't force it, because there's a fourth option that solves this exact problem. Well, it helps this problem and gives you some extra options that none of the other ones can give you. And that's type 4. So type 4 is third-party call tracking. I use CallRail. Links in the description if you want to check it out. But the concept applies to other tools as well in the same space. Here's the key difference. Instead of Google swapping in a random number you don't control, you rent a pool of tracking numbers that you manage. The numbers still rotate per visitor. That's how attribution works, but only within your pool. You pick the numbers, you keep them active, you control them. So if a customer writes down that tracking number and calls back 6 months later or a year later, it still works because you still own it. For businesses that depend on repeat calls or referrals, that kind of reliability matters a lot. But the real reason third-party tracking is worth it goes way beyond the numbers. It's what happens after the call. Type 1 through 3 can tell you that a call happened, but they're like a security camera pointed at your front door. You can see someone walk in, but you have no idea if they bought anything, complained, or asked for directions to the place next door. Third-party tracking lets you go inside the building. You get call recording, which you can technically do in some countries with the Google tracking, but not all. You get stronger attribution. Which campaigns, which ad groups, sometimes which keywords drove that specific call. And most importantly, you get the ability to tag call quality. You can actually set it up so the business owner or receptionist can actually mark that call right after they're done with that call. So that way you can tell if it's a good lead, if it's a wrong fit, or if it's spam or existing customer. And once you have that information, that is a game changer, because now you're not just tracking did the call happen, you're tracking was it worth anything, and you can give that feedback back to Google Ads and know that it's good quality data. This is where call tracking stops being measurement and becomes signal control. You're no longer letting Google decide what a good call looks like, you're telling it. All right, so let me pull this together into a system I actually use. So step 1, track calls in layers. So calls from ads, always non-negotiable. Dynamic website call tracking, yes, either Google forwarding or a third-party tool. Click to call, if it's your only way to track phone leads, use it as a primary conversion and just stay aware of the noise in that data. If you have better tracking in place, keep click to call as secondary or completely remove it so you don't muddy your other signals. Step 2, separate what you report on from what you optimize on. This is a mistake I see constantly. Every call type gets counted as a primary conversion, handed to smart bidding, and Google does exactly what you told it to. Finds more of those calls, but more calls and more revenue are not the same thing. Report on everything so you can see the volume. Try to only optimize on conversions that represent real value. Step 3, add a quality gate. Think of it like a filter on your water tap. Without it, everything flows through. Clean water, dirt, rust, all of it. Google Ads drinks whatever comes out of it. At the basic level, that filter is a minimum call duration. Better than nothing. At the next level, it's the business tagging calls, good leads, bad leads, spam. And at the best level, it's importing those qualified calls back into Google Ads as offline conversions. So the algorithm is literally learning from the calls that turned into paying customers. That's when you stop the cycle where Google chases cheap, easy calls that make your dashboard look amazing while the business dries up behind it. So if calls are going up, but the business says quality is going down, the ads might not be broken. Your signals might be. You now know the 4 types. You know what each one actually measures, you know where each one breaks, and you know how to layer them so your tracking is accurate. The business feels in control, and Google is learning from the right calls. But here's the thing. Even with perfect call tracking, your account can still quietly drift towards cheap, low-quality traffic without you noticing. That's a different problem, and I made a whole video breaking down exactly how it happens and a 3-step system I use to catch it and fix it. Go watch that video next, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one.